Now, earlier today, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority reviewed its prices once again, fuel prices, I should say. To the relief of some, the new prices are now between 5 and 7 shillings lower, but still they rank among the highest fuel prices we've ever had in this country. The latest review came in the midst of a storm that had been boiling over since the last review in mid-September that pushed the prices to an all-time high. But it is the events and the revelations of the last few days that pique my attention tonight. This is the week in which we learned that ships bringing oil into Kenya can linger around the port of Mombasa for as many as 17 to 20 days, waiting to offload their cargo, and that in the process, we end up paying these companies something like 4.5 million shillings each every day for that delay, or what is known more colorfully as demurrage. In fact, according to details presented before a parliamentary committee, the country paid out in excess of 1.3 billion shillings in this demurrage business between January and August this year. Now, this cost was then passed over to you and me in high fuel prices. The second development of the week was a frantic attempt by the National Assembly's Finance Committee to cut back on some of the key taxes that continue to push up fuel prices. Now, both of these developments are significant in understanding why we are where we are. You see, how long a vessel takes before they offload their cargo should surely not be the consumer's problem. This, by the government's own admission, is purely the result of poor planning and inefficiency at the Kenya Ports Authority, where they allow more ships than they can handle to arrive at the port, and then when the taxpayers come around, they take the tab for that inefficiency. In fact, there have been claims of collusion between officials at the Kenya Ports Authority and the vessel owners to manufacture these long delays so that someone somewhere can pocket the millions that we then pay for at the pump. But even more worrying is the number of taxes imposed on fuel products in this country. You see, when the oil arrives in Mombasa, it usually has a landing cost of about 60 shillings. That means if you were to buy that oil before the taxes begin, you'd pay a paltry 60 shillings. In simple terms, before today, 74 shillings of the price of petrol was purely the result of taxes. Indeed, even today, with the new price of around 129.70 cents a litre, the simple interpretation is that a whopping 69 shillings or so, that's more than 50% of the price, is accounted for by taxes. In fact, there are no less than 9 different taxes that are levied on fuel in this country. Now, I said this tax issue piqued my interest because of how frantic members of parliament now appear to be in trying to cut back the taxes they themselves imposed on fuel against our collective opposition as a citizenry. Now, they want to convince us that they are so concerned about our pain that they would go to every length to reduce some of the taxes. But the truth is that whatever the MPs are doing right now is simply too little too late. First, the Treasury has already indicated that it is not in the mood of losing the 27 billion shillings or so that these tax cuts would occasion. After all, who doesn't know that the government is broke? But even if the MPs were to get their way, their own admission suggests that the move would reduce fuel prices by only 10 to 12 shillings. And that is not that much when you're talking about 129 shillings a litre. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is this, that we are not in a pretty place. Fuel is not just any other commodity. It touches on nearly every aspect of the economy. It has already driven basic commodity prices through the roof, and it's getting worse. So I ask, isn't this crisis big enough for the government to stop in its tracks and figure out a solution now? Just how much suffering is enough to push the government into action? I'm surprised that apart from the casual mentions, even the presidential aspirants who are now crisscrossing the country are not talking about this elephant in the room. Now, I wish for once, just this once, something this important would be an election issue. But methinks that would be expecting too much, or would it? That is my angle for the week.